Now we will discuss the concept of creating positive emotions. From an evolutionary standpoint, it's easy to understand what role negative emotions play in our lives. When faced with a crisis, our emotions cause our mental focus to narrow. Our brains and minds go into what is clinically known as tachypsyche, which simply means a state of fast mind. When that happens, we experience tunnel vision. Our perspective narrows in on the immediate threat, allowing us to focus our attention on trying to solve the problem or get away from it. This biological process can cause auditory exclusion. This is we simply don't hear things accurately, like the number of gunshots fired at a crime scene or instructions given by command. The third thing that occurs is time distortion. When people are in crisis mode, their negative emotions amp them up. Then we go into either a kind of slow motion state or we experience time as going much faster than it actually is. One of the most common statements that crime victims make is, "It happened so fast." Another example is firefighters thinking they have more airtime in their bottles than they really do. Instead of causing us to narrow our focus, positive emotions actually broaden and build our perspective. They allow us to see the big picture. They cause us to see more options, to process information more quickly, to be more accurate, and to be better problem solvers. This all boils down to better situational awareness. Another very important factor for firefighters, given their increased risk for heart disease, is that research also shows that people who experience higher levels of positivity, even at relatively minor levels, actually recover more quickly from cardiovascular arousal. For example, if you compare two groups of people, one group in a positive mood state and the other in a negative one, and both groups undergo a stressful event that causes their heart rate to increase, the positive mood group will return to their baseline heart rate much more quickly. Over the course of a firefighter's life, that becomes very significant. Current cancer research is showing that you are more susceptible to cancer-causing exposures when you have an elevated heart rate. Many departments are using this as an added incentive to narrow exposure, and firefighters should recognize this as one more reason to learn how to control your nervous system to the best of your ability. I don't want the term positive emotions to be misleading. Understand, this isn't about avoiding confrontation, always looking the other way, or being overly nice to everyone. Instead, acknowledging and recognizing the fact that our brains are primed toward a negative bias and that we have to take an active role in programming positive feelings for ourselves or others. It takes an effort, but it can be life-changing. Research shows that if people can have 3 even minor positive thoughts and emotions for every one negative emotion they experience, they will offset the negatives and obtain many of the health benefits that we just described. I completed a research study with nearly 400 Phoenix firefighters, and what I found was that those with higher positive emotions had higher resilience, which is a basic research finding. However, I also found a key factor for the fire service to understand. If negative emotions get too high for too long, then no amount of positive emotion will counteract the negative, and therefore this employee's resilience is compromised. In summary, there's study after study showing the benefits of positive emotions. Even though a lot of this already goes on in the station environment, the act of making it a conscious choice, especially from supervisors and managers, will help increase ratios and can't help but have a great impact on the organization. Positive emotions are absolutely indispensable to our health and resilience. Tom, what role can supervisors play in building positive emotions?
I think supervisors are responsible for making sure that all of our members feel good about the organization and the work that we do. We're often faced with bad situations, and so they need to know that we're a force for good, that we're going to do good work and we're going to make people feel better, and as a result of that, they'll feel better about themselves.
Very true, very true. Dave, how can you put these resiliency skills to use during a shift?
The firehouse is like an ecosystem, and if somebody comes in and they're going, either they bring something in with them that, you know, they're having a bad day already at the beginning of shift, or something happens that they you know, are having a bad day. You know, it really is recognizing that one of your personnel are in that bad place, and then trying to create opportunities for them to come to a better place. Whether that is, you know, it's all about the connections. Whether that is, again, the card game to play the dish,
Right.
card game for the dishes at the end of the meal, or you know, a good training event or good training evolution where you have positive outcomes, or, you know, just something good that you know that those members or that member likes to do during the shift, like taking that time to implement that piece.
So, Dave, your point was that, you know, making sure that you can bring fun and laughter into each shift is something really important for a supervisor to do, and to make sure that all of the guys in the crew get involved in that.
Absolutely.
Brian, what types of emotions can you foster in firefighters to help them build their resiliency?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of emotions that happen in a firehouse. One that comes to mind is just a negative emotion. I think we see a lot of that because it's really easy to go to. I know at my fire station, if we start to see the other members of the crew get too negative, we'll start to point out maybe if they're being that way. I'll see that with making fun of another truck's chow and trying to maybe redirect them into something more positive about it, maybe saying something positive to the crew that cooked, and maybe see if we can foster a change. Another negativity is going to the same address. I think the repeat callers can start to wear on the members, and so if somebody on the crew starts to get too negative about it, I think, again, we try to redirect or talk about that. It's okay to vent a little bit, but we don't want that to ruin a shift.
So we don't want the emotions to get contagious, and if one's negative, everybody's negative. We want to try to turn that around and stop it before that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Dave, what kind of final thoughts do you have about resiliency?
I'm really excited about the IAFF resiliency training. You know, we, in my local and in my department, we implemented the IAFF peer support team. We had the training. It was a great partnership between our administration and our local. What I think our peer supporters have found, as they've been busy, is that we need resiliency. So you have peer support, and then the next sort of logical step to that, the next evolution of that, is resiliency for our members. So we're really excited about this material.
Good. Tom, what about you?
So I'd say culturally, this is a good next step for the fire service. I think a resilient firefighter, paramedic, EMT is a safer firefighter, paramedic, or EMT. And when you have safer firefighters, paramedics, or EMTs, you have resilient firefighters, paramedics, or EMTs, you have a better organization, and they're able to be more productive in the work that they do.